You do not apply for a black program. You get selected. And by the time you understand what you have been selected for, you are already inside it. The first thing they tell you is that the program does not exist, not as a formality. As a rule, you will live by every day for as long as you remain useful. You will have a title at your parent agency. You will have a desk, a badge number, a supervisor who signs your performance reviews twice a year in a building with a normal name on a normal street. None of that will describe what you actually do. That gap between the paper version of your life and the real version, that gap is the program. And your entire career will take place inside it. You come in as a support analyst, the lowest functional tier. You are not yet trusted with operations. You are trusted with paperwork. You process signals. You cross-reference intercept logs against open-source indices, flag inconsistencies in travel metadata, write summaries that go upward into a chain you cannot see the top of. Your workspace is a basement office with no windows and no connection to the outside internet. The fluorescent lights buzz at a frequency you will notice for the first 3 weeks and then stop noticing forever. That moment when you stop noticing that is actually worth paying attention to. It is the first small thing the program takes from you, and it takes it so gently you do not feel it leave. The people around you at this level are careful. Careful the way people are careful when they have been told exactly once what the consequences of carelessness are, and believed it. Nobody asks where the work goes. Nobody asks who is reading the summaries. You learn by watching that curiosity is not a value here. Precision is a value. Discretion is a value. Curiosity is a liability, and it belongs to whoever you were before you walked through the door. You also learn, in these early months, what the program expects from your body. You are expected to be present before 7 in the morning. You are expected to be present past 7 at night. You are expected to carry a second phone that has one contact saved in it. No name, just a number. And that phone is to be answered within 2 rings at any hour, including holidays, including the night your father goes to the hospital, including every night after that. You do not complain about this. Nobody at this level complains about anything. Complaining would suggest you misunderstood the terms when you signed, and nobody here misunderstood the terms. You understood them exactly. You signed anyway, which tells the program everything it needs to know about you, and which tells you something about yourself that you will spend years deciding how to interpret. After some months, the timing is never announced in advance. You receive a new clearance appended to your existing one, a code word designation. It does not come with a ceremony. It comes as a form, already signed by someone whose title you do not recognize, slid across a desk in a meeting that has no official name on any calendar. You sign your name. You are now inside a smaller room inside the building being a metaphor, mostly. But also, sometimes, a literal building with a literal, smaller room. At this level, you begin to see operations in summary form, not planning them, not running them, reading finished accounts of things that have already happened, constructing a picture of the program's scope from the inside. You learn that the program is older than you assumed when you were recruited. You learn that it has worked. You learn that some of the things it has done, cleanly and without any public trace, are things that would have troubled you deeply 3 years ago. You file that discomfort in a place inside yourself that has no label and keep reading. Everyone at this level is doing the same filing. The room fills up with things nobody mentions. The fluorescent light still buzzes, but you stopped hearing it months ago. The transition from support analyst to what the program unofficially calls an active contributor is not a promotion in any HR sense. There is no new salary band. There is no email from HR. It is a function change, communicated verbally in a room with no recording equipment. You are now assigned to a working cell, 3 to 5 people, depending on the operation. You have a cell lead. The cell lead has access to information you do not, makes decisions you do not question, and is accountable upward to someone whose name you will not learn for another year. This is the architecture. It is not inefficiency. It is designed so that if any one component of the cell is compromised, the exposure is bounded, and the machine continues without meaningful interruption. Your first cell operation is domestic. Administrative surveillance, a phrase that tells you something important about how language functions inside the program. The target is a naturalized citizen with financial connections that have been tracked for several years before you arrived. You do not decide he is a target. You receive him as a target and you build his network, map outward from a core of 3 confirmed associates, 14-hour days. Cross-referencing travel records, banking metadata, communication intercepts sourced several legal degrees removed from anything a court would touch. You are good at this. You find a network node the cell lead has not previously mapped. You flag it. The cell lead takes it up the chain. 3 days later, you are told the operation has expanded based on your analysis. You did that. That is the first time you feel the specific, quiet satisfaction of genuine usefulness to the program. It is a dangerous feeling, and nobody warns you that it is. The cell becomes the primary social world of your working life. Outside it, you maintain cover story versions of everything. Your friends know a job title, your family knows a department name. Your partner, if you have one, knows a vague general shape of what you do, sanitized to near fiction. The program does not prohibit relationships, it just makes them structurally expensive. Every dinner conversation requires a running background calculation. What you can say, what you must redirect, what you are omitting without technically lying. After enough time, you stop feeling the effort of that calculation. It runs automatically. That is another thing that goes quiet. You do not mourn it, because by the time it goes quiet, you have already forgotten what it sounded like. Access Level 3 is when the program shows you the file, not a file, the file. The foundational authorization documents, the original executive instruments that created the program's legal architecture, the oversight mechanism, a single standing committee, no public record, meets 4 times a year in a room that does not appear on any building schematic. You read the documents in a secure reading room over 4 hours, no notes permitted, no copies. When you walk out, the hallway looks exactly the same as when you walked in. People are filling water bottles. Someone is eating crackers from a desk drawer. The world has not adjusted itself to account for what you now know. And that is the most disorienting thing. Not the knowledge itself, but the total indifference of everything around you to the fact that you now carry it. You are also given, at this level, your first asset, a human source. Someone outside the program who provides information, who does not fully understand the nature of what they are feeding into, who believes they are participating in something they could explain to themselves if pressed. You meet this person 4 times a year in unremarkable settings: a hotel lobby, a diner, near a transit hub, a parking structure with bad lighting and a smell of exhaust that you will associate for the rest of your life with the specific feeling of performing sincerity. You memorize their patterns, the way they hold a coffee cup, the slight hesitation before they share anything sensitive, the small tells that distinguish information they have verified from information they are giving you to feel useful. You handle them with professional care because they are operationally valuable, and because despite everything the program has built in you, by this point you are still capable of recognizing a human being who trusts you. That recognition is a form of conscience. You learn to work around it. You become skilled at it. That skill is not something you are proud of, but pride is not the metric the program uses. By now, the buzz of the fluorescent light has been replaced by silence. The silence is not comfortable. It is only familiar. Operational lead is what the next tier is called, unofficially, inside cells. Not a formal title, a function. You are now responsible for cell outcomes, not just cell inputs. If an operation breaks wrong, if a source burns, if a domestic action generates legal surface area, if a foreign liaison queries something that should not have left the building, the accountability chain starts with you. The cell lead you reported to when you were first assigned, that is now you, for the people coming in below you. You attend briefings where the program's broader architecture becomes partially visible. Not the full picture, Not yet. But enough to understand that the program is not one cell and not one operational thread. It is dozens of parallel cells, their outputs feeding decisions made at levels you are only beginning to see the edges of. The moral accounting changes at this level in a way that is hard to describe precisely. Early in your career, you were handling information about things other people did. Now you are directing things. The person authorizing expanded surveillance, flagging a name for escalation, moving a source deeper into a network they cannot safely leave, that is you. You are not violating any law that exists in writing, but you are making decisions that affect real lives through a mechanism with no external accountability, no public visibility, and no appeal. You know this. Everyone at this level knows this. Nobody says it aloud, because saying it aloud accomplishes nothing and would be noted and filed somewhere you would rather not have your name filed. You develop a small ritual, a specific coffee order, same cart, 3 blocks from the facility, every morning before a cell brief. It is not superstition. It is a handhold. One small thing that is yours and carries no operational weight. The program cannot classify it. It is just a cup of coffee. But you are aware of why you need it, which means you are still aware of what its absence would mean. A version of yourself that requires nothing from the world outside the work and has completed the transition entirely. You are not ready to be that version yet. You tell yourself that matters. Some mornings, you believe it. Senior Designate is the tier below the program's inner architecture. At this level, you have access to cross-program coordination data. You can see how this program feeds into at least 3 parallel programs. You can see the downstream policy outputs real decisions in the world that trace back several removes to your program's intelligence products. A foreign trade negotiation that resolved in a particular direction. A domestic prosecution built on sourcing that would not survive a defense attorney's discovery motion. A foreign official whose career ended in a scandal that was not entirely organic. You contributed to that last one, distantly. You processed a signal summary that fed into it 20 months before the scandal broke. You did not know that when you processed it. You know it now. The knowledge does not change anything about your operational responsibilities. It just adds to the ledger. The people around you at this tier are not dramatic. They are tired in a specific way. Competent, controlled, precise, under pressure, and behind the eyes, settled. The questions they once carried about whether this is right, whether the oversight is adequate, whether the program serves the thing it was designed to serve, or has long since become a self-sustaining mechanism that serves its own continuation, those questions did not disappear. They calcified. They are present the way an old injury is present. You know it is there. You have learned to move around it without slowing down. The newcomers at lower tiers sometimes still show the questions on their faces. In the slight hesitation before they complete a task, they find uncomfortable. You recognize it. You watched yourself in the mirror at that stage. You do not tell them it gets easier, because that is not what happens. You tell them the brief starts in 5 minutes, because that is what is true and useful. You have not had an unconditional conversation with your partner in a long time. Not a hostile relationship, a managed one. 2 people who are careful with each other. You cannot remember when careful replaced close. The program did not take your relationship. It just changed the atmospheric conditions until the relationship adapted to survive in them. What survived is real. Whether it is the same thing, that question belongs in the same internal drawer as all the others. The inner circle is not called that. It has a code word designation, classified above everything you held 6 months ago. It contains 9 people. You are now one of them. You have access to the program's full operational history, 38 years of files. You read it across 5 weeks in a reading room with a dehumidifier that runs constantly, a single overhead lamp, and a chair that is slightly too hard by design. Someone decided that chair should be uncomfortable. You understand why, eventually. Discomfort keeps the mind from wandering. The reading room is not a place for wandering. You read it with the professional detachment you have spent years constructing, and it holds in most places. You read operational summaries with clinical efficiency. You read outcome assessments without flinching. You read foreign casualty figures embedded in third paragraph footnotes, and you note them and move on, the way you have been trained to move on. But somewhere in week 3, the detachment develops one small fracture. Not in what you are reading about operations or outcomes, in the names. How many names appear in the early files with regularity analysts, cell leads, operational designates, and then stop appearing? Not dead, reassigned, rotated to cover positions at parent agencies, quietly separated from the program after their window of usefulness closed, replaced by new names who do not yet know they are temporary. You understand, reading this, that you are not the program. You were never the program. The program is a machine with a mission and a legal instrument and a committee that meets 4 times a year. The machine takes people at the peak of their capabilities, uses those capabilities for a defined window, and then the machine continues. This is not betrayal. It is not even indifference. It is the operational reality, and you now have the clearance to see it without any insulating layer of partial information softening the view. There is a specific afternoon near the end of week 5 when you set down a file and sit for a moment in the reading room with the dehumidifier running. You are looking at the current operational calendar. Next cycle. Next cells. Next assets. Next set of decisions that will not appear in any record accessible to any public body. You recognize the architecture because you helped design parts of it. You can see, clearly, that the machine will continue producing the same outputs with the next set of names the same way it produced them with yours. You put the file back in the box. The lamp stays on. The dehumidifier runs. You sit for 1 more minute in the chair that was designed to be uncomfortable, and you notice, for the first time in years, that you are sitting in a room alone without any operational objective. No summary to write, no cell to brief, no asset to prepare for, just you and the files and the machine humming around you. You try to remember the last time you sat somewhere with no task attached to the moment. You cannot land on a specific memory. That absence does not frighten you the way it might have once. It just sits there, noted, like a line in a report that does not yet have a consequence column. You sign out of the reading room and walk through the corridor and out the side entrance into cold air. 3 blocks to the coffee cart. You order the same thing you have ordered every operational morning for years. The person who hands you the cup does not know what is in the building behind you, does not know about the 38 years of files, the committee with no public record, the names that stop appearing. They hand you a cup and say, "Have a good one," and you say thanks. And you mean it. That small, clean, unremarkable exchange is the only part of the morning that is not classified, not managed, not contributing to a larger operational objective. You take the cup, you walk back toward the entrance, badge in hand, the cold still on your jacket. The program opens the next file. It never notices you are gone. If you watch this to the very end, ask yourself honestly, at which exact level would you have stopped being yourself? Because the program never asks that question. It just keeps the door open and the light on.